We have our ups and we have our downs. We focus more on the ups because when you start to focus on the downs, the high points start to go away and you don't really notice them as much anymore. And so I call it a journey because it's exciting, it's a learning experience, and it's really what my life is, up and downs.
Tony, we want to hear your story. This is an opportunity to hear your story.
I come from a family of a mother who was a Sarasota police officer, and she was forced to retire due to an injury on the job. All she had known what to do is to help fight crime, and the Lord led her to adoption. And so she started doing foster care, and one thing led to another. She adopted 4 girls and 2 boys. I'm the youngest of the clan, and we live a very happy life together and love each other very much. I was enrolled in a camp for endurance, and so I was all about speed, and I would compete in all these different races around town. And I joined the camp, wanted to help myself grow better in being able to last longer in sports and become healthier. And that is when I became sick. It was at this camp, and they said that it was cancer, and they had to take my entire kidney out along with my tumor, and that's where my journey began. We didn't grow up with a father, so it was up to the older kids to help out and keep the house going normally while we were gone. The first surgery I had was a major surgery. The recovery was so intense, and so the time of being initially diagnosed was a very rough time for my family, but from that time forward was a growing stage for not only myself but for my family. We turned fully to the Lord, and that is where our journey started to go back uphill for us. We started to have realizations of what the power of God can actually do for you, and how that changes people's lives, and how it's changed my life only in the first several months of being diagnosed. I went on a mission trip, and part of the mission trip, one of the things that we were told that might be a good idea for us to do is to break out on our own and have some alone time with God. From that day, I started to have a daily prayer journal. I go through a journal probably every 2 months, and that's probably been one of the biggest things that's helped me get through it, is being able to pray. My prayers now are along the lines of, how can I help others? How can I share my story? How can I be the better person and glorify you while doing it? Every single time that I have received the news that I have been re-diagnosed for the past 7 times, I have grown more worrisome, but yet I've stayed more calm. Even though I've been dealt this very bad hand, I can still make something positive out of it. I can go out and share my story, share my testimony and how God's worked in my life. I wanted a career in possibly acting. Being dealt what I have and having the power that I have to communicate with people is really a fantastic mixture, because now I can share my story with people and give them a taste of how Christ has worked in my life, and hopefully lead them to become followers and believers of Jesus Christ. When I was diagnosed, I became familiar with a group that's called the National Pediatric Cancer Foundation, and I started giving speeches and going about my life, helping them raise more awareness for pediatric cancer. After that, one thing led to another, and I started doing more speeches on my own, and I was awarded an award in Tampa, where it was called the Tampa Sneaker Soiree Community Hero Award. And I was recognized with all of these sports players, and I was kind of thrown in there, and I was in awe of all these people that I had seen on TV, especially with the hockey players, which was one of the biggest sports that I watched while I was in the hospital. And while I was there, they happened to be receiving an award for going to the Stanley Cup final that year. The Lightning players and the coach happened to come over and talk to me. And since then, my relationship has grown with the Tampa Bay Lightning, and I've been kind of inducted in as one of their own, you could say, I guess. I think that having relationships with people and going out and sharing my story has opened up doors for me. I ended up going to Washington, D.C. to advocate for a new bill that was being repassed. And I was fortunate enough to share my story where that bill did end up getting repassed. And it helped a lot of kids, not just with cancer. And I would have never gone on that trip if one of the sponsors from our hospital had never seen me give a speech and hadn't seen what I'm doing with my life to help others. I've been fortunate enough that God has given me that gift and that talent to be able to share my story the way that I do and help others while I do it. So the words out of options can mean a few different things, I guess you could say. So I was put into remission and told that I was in remission in 2012, and then eventually I would have been told that I was cancer-free. I lived a happy life, thought it was all done. Unfortunately, that was proven wrong. Followed the year following, 2013, February, I was diagnosed again and told that my cancer had come back and that I would have to start chemotherapy again. We were told we didn't have many options. We weren't sure what we were going to be able to do surgery possibly, just get the tumors taken out and see if it comes back. So we did that, and it came back almost immediately. And we have been stuck with very limited options on things we were going to do. My timeline isn't as long as what we would have hoped it to be. They said anywhere from less than 6 months or so, and that the cancer was continuing to grow inside me. And from that moment, I was put onto a hospice care and was treated at home for pain management. My pain is intense. I've been told it's more of pain than a normal person would be able to handle. I can guarantee you that those prayer warriors that I have out there praying for me are a huge help in my life and a huge output in my life to help me continue to do what I do and help me to continue to live out my life happy and healthy. So going through everything that I've been through in the past 6 years, I've had some lows and I've definitely had highs. But the lowest of lows that I've ever had is when I was told, a time length on possibly how long it would be until I'm no longer here, until I get to go to heaven. And I have been fortunate enough to, I believe, understand what it feels like to fall in love with someone. And it's very hard to be in a relationship with someone and then be told that you're not going to be here much longer and that person will have to stay here while you're gone. The hardest part, I guess, would be having to leave all of my friends and family that I have come to great understanding and great love for. And I like to think of others a lot. And one of those things is I'm going to be so much happier where I am, but the suffering that you guys will all have to go through while I'm not here, that's a big thing that I struggle with and I worry about is that. And that's probably the lowest of my lows, is just leaving people that I love and knowing that time is possibly coming soon. I've been fortunate enough to share my story many different places and have many different people hear it. I'll have kids that I've never even met. I don't know who they are, and they'll come up to me and they'll ask me, well, why did God do this to you? Why did this happen to you? And I get to explain my story to them. I get to explain that I am fortunate enough to get to share my story, my testimony with people, that God is such a happy and uplifting spirit to me, and that He's helped me get through so much that I've done. Others don't realize how much they inspire me to do things, because I always hear the stories of how I go out and I get to inspire others, when in reality, when I'm out there speaking to others and I get to see the faces and the stories that others have brought back to me, that really inspires me and it lifts up my spirits as well. You really understand how much friends actually mean to you, and you understand what a relationship with a friend can actually, how it can help you. And I didn't realize that until after I was diagnosed, how much the simplest gesture of a 6th grader coming over to you and asking you, hey, do you want to play with my Rubik's Cube? Or look how fast I can solve my Rubik's Cube. When you've been ignored for a while because you look different than others. You're not the normal 6th grader. You don't have hair. You look sick. You have to have a backpack that's on wheels because you can't carry it because you're too weak. Everyone in this world has been touched by the disease of cancer. And if they know how to recognize and go about someone who has cancer, then I think that's all the more power to them. And so that's kind of my goal in life, is to make sure that everyone understands that kids with cancer or adults with cancer are not any different than a normal person who doesn't have cancer. So one of the biggest things that I would always say to someone is just treat them like you would treat anybody else. Being invited to things again was probably the highest point in my life, and being able to be accepted again as a normal teenager, even though I might be bald or have white hair from a medicine that I'm on, or just living my life normal again. That was probably the highest point, is when friends started to have realization of he's not any different than us. There's a song, it's called Shoulders, and that song has been a song that's always stuck with me.
I look up to the mountains. Does my strength come from the mountains? No. My strength comes from God, who made heaven and earth and the mountains.
The very first thing in one of the recorded versions of that song is I look up to the mountains, and then it says that God is the one who I'm on his shoulders. And that is what has really walked me through my life. I mean, this isn't me. I'm not doing all of this myself. It's not all about me. I don't live this life for myself. And that song has just really been inspiring to me, and that's just been the one song that I've always listened to, whether it be with friends and family that I've, maybe bothered them a little bit when I play that song too much, but that's just a song that I always have to listen to if I'm ever feeling down.
My help comes from you. You're right here pulling me through. You carry my weakness, my sickness, my brokenness all on your shoulders.
When my life comes to an end and my story is done, the legacy that I feel that I would want to leave behind is having people know that I've helped other people, and that people know that my story was a story of success. It wasn't a story of failure or illness or disease. It was a failure of happiness. It was a life of happiness and having a very prosperous life and living life to the fullest and enjoying my life, even though I've been dealt a bad hand.
Toner Joseph Colton, age 17, of Sarasota, Florida, passed away peacefully, surrounded by his loved ones on July 30th. Although we are deeply saddened by the loss of his life here on earth, he wanted us to be happy and joyous today. I heard him say multiple times, "This is the life God gave me, and I wouldn't change it for anything."
Overall, the legacy that I want to leave is just having others know that success and happiness can come from bad and sorrow. I'm Tony Colton, and this is how I found joy in my story.